And this is my assistant, Stemmy. STEM is all around us. Early Bird Kids make STEM relevant, simple, and fun for elementary students using the LEARN model. LEARN is literacy, edutainment, application, and reinforced normatives. Early Bird Kids engages and exposes children to real-life engineering experiences like our new Everblock building experience. Early Bird Kids provides an innovative way to spark an interest in elementary students and inspire them to learn and pursue STEM. Our books' reading levels are based on Lexile measurements. IBK is STEM.org certified. Today's students are tomorrow's pioneers. STEM competencies are critically important for our kids' long-term survival. Early Bird Kids develops STEM content for K through 3rd grades, including books, live shows, STEM television shows, and mobile STEM expos for school districts and parents across the nation. We want to help you light the STEM passion in our children. So let's get it done together. Visit us at earlybirdkids.com.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Aaron. So good to see you, so bright eye and bushy tail.
Good morning, my leader. Good morning.
Look, everyone, we are excited to be back with you today. For those that don't know me, but I'm quite sure you do, I'm Cheryl Harris, and I'm the president of the South Carolina Caucus of Black School Board Members. And I am joined with my leader of the Richland 1 School Board, our chair, the pastor, the renowned Aaron Bishop of Grace Christian Church here in Columbia, South Carolina. And we are so excited to be here today to bring you day 2 of a power-packed Black History celebration. You know, there's a saying and there's a scripture that says that the knowledge that we need to have to be successful in life, that if we don't have it, it says ask God for wisdom. So today we're asking God for wisdom. It's important to us as a people that we know who we are, we know where we've come from, we know the strides that we've made, the efforts, but it's important that we know where we're headed. So on today, it's going to be epic. It's going to be exciting. If you joined us last night, we say thank you. We had an amazing time. And if you didn't get to see last night, please go back and view it for yourself in your own free time. It was so good last night, Aaron. I had to bring out the tambourine, Aaron. I had to bring it out last night, okay? But today, you know, we are excited. Hey, Amelia, good to see you from Richland too. That's right. Let us know you're on there from around the state. Hey there, Gladys. Good to see you here as well. Thank you for joining us last night. These are our parents, guys, that's chiming in from across the state. Sylvia Harrison, there's the vice president of the School Board Black Caucus. Good morning. Glad to see you on this morning. Hey, there's Michelle, our secretary of the caucus, all the way from Greenville, chiming in. So we're excited to see you all back with us today. And I'm going to tell you, this panel is already crunk and ready to go. Okay. So before we get to that, we want to pause for a minute because we do like to showcase talent in our state. Last night, we saw a whole lot of our students that had graduated, matriculated out to college, different things, recording, doing great things across the state, across the country, and across the world, across the globe. But today, I want to share somebody very special with you. And he is none other than Craig Witherspoon. And he is the superintendent, guys, of the district Aaron and I serve on here in the capital city, Richland School District 1. And I don't know if you know this or not, but Craig Witherspoon will pull out his saxophone and he will serenade his staff in a heartbeat. So, guys, take a listen to his brand new CD out that is going to be played for you right now. Let's go, guys. Good morning, Jamie, president of SCCBSBM. That's awesome. Yes, Aaron, let's give it up for our superintendent, Dr. Craig Witherspoon, here in Columbia, Richland One's awesome leader, the Brain Trust. Okay, Aaron, I know those guys are probably backstage right now wondering what in the world did Cheryl and Aaron do? Did they disappear? But let's talk about who's coming out. Let's introduce our folks. Aaron, take it over.
Yes. And first of all, before I go there, let me just honor and give acknowledgement to your courageous leadership. Cheryl Harris, you have done a great job organizing this. And I know you were surrounded by an amazing team.
Right.
But last night it just was epic, as the children say. It was epic. And I saw you pull out that tambourine. I said, oh, Lord, we about to have a celebration now. And I just want to definitely commend you, because we need to honor Black history like this every day. Not just in this month, but every day. And you did an excellent job putting everything in motion. And I just want to give you your respect and your honor, because to know where we have come from since 1926, when Dr. Carter G. Woodson decided to do a week of achievement, Black achievement, to educate our people. Now we're doing it in a month.
That's right.
Cheryl Harris, you and the South Carolina Caucus of Black School Board members should make sure we carry this message going forward. So thank you so much for this opportunity. So who do we have?
We have Honorable Annie Mcdaniels from Fairfield County, former
the relevant and radiant Representative Annie Mcdaniels.
That's right. And then we have the Honorable, our big brother, Vince Ford with Prisma Health System, but also a 24-year veteran from Richland School District 1 joining us.
The very, very courageous Vince Ford.
That's right. And then we have Mr. Bakari Sellers himself.
The brilliant Bakari Sellers.
The power of the thunder in his voice, joining us on this morning. And last but not least, I call him my little brother, Antjuan Seawright, a Democratic strategist that has a whole lot to say about a whole lot of things. And we're glad to have him joining us as well. It is going to be awesome. We see so many of you logging on to
Mama, there go that man again.
You want to be a part of this. So Aaron, let's go. Let's go in, guys. Glad to have everybody on. Thank y'all so much for joining Aaron and I this morning. We know there are so many things you could have been doing, but because Black history matters to you, because it matters to you, you took out the time to be here with us this morning. So we say thank you on behalf of every Black school board member that is not just watching in the state of South Carolina, but also in North Carolina and Georgia. Caucuses have joined us. So we thank you for being on today so we can have this deep dive discussion. Aaron, let's go.
Okay, everyone, I really want to keep this conversation very organic. So if I lead off with one person and you really want to tag in on that, feel free to come in. And I know Antjuan, the anointed Antjuan Seawright, gonna give us some zingers and dingers. So I'm ready for this, everyone. If you haven't shared this information, this YouTube, do not neglect to do that opportunity any further. So let's get into something that Vince Ford taught me a long time ago. It's this question about children, because when we look at the story of the Messiah tribe, when they want to understand the health of the society, the question they ask each other in passing is, how are the children? And the response is, all the children are well. So here's the question. With COVID being a challenge in today's society and having an adverse impact on children's learning, what should the village, we are the village, what should the village be doing to help bridge the gap over these troubled waters in education? Bakari, I'm gonna call on you first, brilliant man.
Well, first, let me just say I'm not a city person like the rest of y'all on this call. I'm from the big city of Denmark, God's country, where we got a whole 3 stoplights and a blinking light. We might be slightly bigger than Swansea, though, see, right? Slightly. But Gwen and Cleve, my mom and dad, would always tell me the 2 most important words in the English language are the words thank you. They're not nearly said enough. And so to Cheryl Harris for reaching out to me, people always ask me, will I speak at such and such? I'm like, yeah, if you ask me. And Cheryl just had the audacity to ask, and I'm grateful for being here.
Thank you.
Aaron and Antjuan, I'm just, your friendship has meant the world to me. Brothers I never really wanted, but I got now. Rep Mcdaniel, the State House ain't a place I necessarily want to go back, but I'm glad we got people like you over there. And thenceforward, I stand on your shoulder. I just do it. You're not a bad old guy to look up to, Vince. And I appreciate everything you have done, and I'll continue to try to make you proud. Look, Aaron, you asked a really good question, and the fact is that this pandemic has ripped the Band-Aid off the systemic inequities we have in our communities. When I travel across the country, people often ask a question that's rooted in ignorance, but they say, so why are Black folks suffering at such high rates from this pandemic? And what you're starting to see is when the pandemic hit, we now are taking note of the pre-existing conditions and the underlying conditions that are in our communities. For example, growing up in Denmark and even Swansea, you grow up in a food desert where you can't go 2-3 miles and get access to fresh fruits and vegetables. You think about the fact that rural hospitals from Chesterfield down to Barnwell, Bamberg, Hampton, et cetera, are closing down due to a lack of expansion of Medicaid, et cetera, et cetera. You look at the lack of potable water in some of these smaller communities. So COVID has exposed all of these issues that we've been screaming about for a long period of time, and our children are the ones who are suffering the most. One of the top causes for children not performing well in school in the state of South Carolina is hunger. And I've always told folks that COVID for me wasn't about making sure that kids had Wi-Fi, wasn't making sure that kids had a place to go. I was more concerned about the kids who would no longer have an opportunity to eat, because we know that the breakfast and lunch programs at our schools are integral to a lot of kids just staving off starvation and hunger. And so we have a huge role to play. We have a gap to stand in, not only from a physical perspective or a public health perspective, but also an economic perspective. And I hope listen, this is my prayer, that in South Carolina for far too long, we have been identifying the issues and the ills of our community, but we haven't done things substantively to change. Right. With all due respect, we've had a quarter of shame since before I was born. We have a quarter of shame today. And we have these poor rural communities where we can identify the problem, but we haven't addressed those ills. I just think that challenge is on all of us, from Washington, D.C. to Columbia, South Carolina, to school boards. We have to do a better job of taking care of our communities and lifting them up and putting them on our shoulders.
Excellent. Representative Annie McDaniel, I think this is a great time for you to chime in. Talk to us, if you don't mind, about the village. What should the village be doing?
All right. Let me first say thank you all for allowing me to be a part of this dynamic panel. Antjuan, Seawright, Bakari, Vince Ford, three of the gentlemen that I admire the most, and definitely enjoyed serving with you and Cheryl on school boards during my 18-year tenure and you all's tenure, and just really appreciate what you all are doing as getting the brand out for the Caucus of Black School Board members. I participated in that organization my entire tenure there, and I just want to celebrate you guys for the level that you have taken it. I just want to expound a little bit from where Attorney Sellers talked about, and that's substitute change. I think we all understand what COVID has unveiled, but the question is now, what do we do? What do we do to bring that positive change to those things that has been uncovered? Our school system. He talked about quarter of shame. We can never talk enough about that. We just had a bill come through the House that we fought with all of our might, and to no change. But for me, it was getting the message out there to those who are watching what we were actually doing, and the fact that we want the state superintendent to take over school districts, school boards, schools, that she or he has been given the charge of ensuring that they're doing what they can do and should be doing to educate the children. And when I asked the question, when they told me that, for instance, Allendale was doing better, I said, by whose count? They said the state superintendent. Oh, so we asked the fox who's guarding the hen house, how many hens are in the hen house? I said, wow, that's amazing. So education is one that I speak of. Definitely healthcare is another one. It's exposed the desert that exists. We have hospitals that have closed, and now we're beating on Prisma and MUSC to try to take care of the whole state. But I'm glad we did decide to pull in our federally qualified health centers and some of the other independent practices in pharmaceutical industry to try to get the vaccine out. But I think the bottom line, Cheryl, is voting and electing people within our village who are going to do those things that they have subscribed to do. And we must hold them accountable. And not just the ones in our community. We got to reach out to the other ones as well. We may not be voting for you, but we know people who are. Absolutely. And if that's what change takes in order to have things happen so that even the least of us can prosper, then that's what we can do. And I could say a whole lot more, but I'll stop because we have other panelists that need to speak. But again, thank you for having me.
Well, hey, normally I would call on this man because he knows baseball and he's a cleanup batter and home run hitter. But you mentioned something about Prisma Health. So I definitely want to bring Vince Ford into this conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Madam Chairman Cheryl Hinton Harris, and to the other panelists as well. We can certainly talk about each of the panelists and all the things that they're doing. So I applaud them collectively this morning. I want to use the time to lift up the question. The question is, what can the village do? So let me start with everyone on this call. Is because you're an influencer, let me encourage you to consider getting the vaccine, the COVID vaccine. Let's start there. If you do that, that is the beginning of an entire process. Let me also encourage you to have Zoom meetings with your family members to talk about the importance of getting the COVID vaccine. Now, I do understand, and I have a lot of appreciation for vaccine hesitancy, particularly amongst the African-American community. I mean, we can talk about Tuskegee, we could talk about medical mistrust, we could talk about how we've been treated in the healthcare space, and all of it is true and all of it is legitimate. This is an opportunity, though, for us to level the playing field and consider getting the vaccine, because here's what we know. As we speak, over 500,000 people in the United States have died from the virus. From the vaccine, we've had just a few side effects from people across the world, actually. And so when you compare that, 500,000 deaths and very few side effects. There have been some side effects, but not to the degree that it has killed anybody or hospitalized anyone. That is something that you can do. And I would also encourage you, please consider getting your information from a primary care doctor or a healthcare professional, and not from the internet and not from your friends and some family members, but get factual information, because some of the things that I'm hearing is absolutely not true. But they're gaining momentum around our community. So those are some of the things that if we really want to help children, we start with ourselves. So let me give you a quick example. I had someone tell me that their father, who's in their 70s, decided that he was concerned because of the vaccine was created in such a fast pace that he wasn't going to get the vaccine. So he asked his son, who was in his 50s, well, are you going to get it? And his son said, yes, Dad, I'm going to get it. And so then the father changed his mind and decided that he was going to get it. So we're influencers. We need to continue to influence those in our community, because if we're going to stem the tide and get back to some sense of normalcy, it's going to come through us being vaccinated. That said, trust me, I understand the hesitancy. I understand the concern. I understand why people may be hesitant about getting the vaccine, but there are many reasons why we think that you should. And I'd be happy to talk about those a little bit later. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vince Ford, for that contribution to this conversation. Antjuan, I couldn't wait to hear from you, my friend. Can you add to this conversation?
Well, thank you. My school board member, Chairwoman Harris, thank you. Aaron, my brother and pastor, when I need you. Aaron Bishop, Representative Andy McDaniels, my brother, Bakari Sellers, and my dear friend who I talk to every day, and to Vince Ford, the legendary Vince Ford. You can't mention Black history and Black school board members in South Carolina or this region without talking about Vince Ford. And we all not only stand on your shoulders, but we are still trying to climb your back so we can stand a little taller. So we appreciate it. Look, this pandemic, the worst pandemic since 1918, has caused some of the worst economic challenges since 1932, has more than just cut, it has split its way through Black and brown communities across this country. Forget about the state. My mother, 64-year Black woman, had it. My sister, 45-year principal at Swansea High School, and the latest person in my family, my 19-year-old niece at the University of South Carolina, Aiken, had it. Having soberness around the disproportionate impact, but to know that Black people are less likely to be tested, less likely to be treated, more likely to be on the front line serving an essential and critical role, more likely to die or to get the virus. And now we know from the data, Mr. Vince Ford, that we are less likely to get the vaccine. So we have to have soberness around that. And when you talk about that and can put the village around that, we also have to know what we learned in Swansea and what I appreciate about living in Lower Richland. It takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a village to keep the family.
Right.
And within that village, we have to understand that everybody has a role to play and everybody has a responsibility.
Right.
All may not be the school board member having to make decisions about when and how children go back to school. Right. But we all have to make sure that our children are safe and what safety looks like and make sure they're fed. We all may not be the head of outreach and community engagement for Palmetto Health and encouraging people to get vaccinated, but we all can inform our families and push back on disinformation, misinformation, and lies that exist in our community. We all can't be on CNN giving powerful words of wisdom and digesting the issues of our day, but we all have our own influence of circles that we influence in our own way, and I think we have to make sure we're armed with facts and information that could help inform our constituencies that we all serve. The Bible says, "My people perish without the lack of knowledge." We all can't be in the state capitol making laws and pushing for change, but we all can help shape what the capitol looks like, and that's by showing up and participating in every election. And that's why this group is so important, because, Bakari, I told the group yesterday, the closer your government is to you, the more important it is for you. Right. And school board members are on the front line. They are spark plugs for change and for making a difference in all of our communities. And so when our community is hurting, just know that our children sometimes hurt twice as much.
That's right.
Twice as hard.
That's right.
So when you talk about that village concept and what can we do, we've got to make sure we protect the most vulnerable in our communities. And sometimes looking out for our children also means looking out for our grandmothers and grandfathers and aunts and uncles who are taking care of them. Because a lot of times in our communities, we are deemed consequential. So that means the traditional family suggestion doesn't look like what it looks like on TV. And I think we have to be sober about what community engagement looks like, but also what taking care of the village looks like.
Right.
Madam President, I see you over there, giving amen to a lot. You have to add to this conversation, Madam President.
Well, you know what? I'm not on the panel, so I was trying to be a little quiet because y'all know when I get crunk, I can't keep quiet. But I appreciate what all four panelists have said, because, guys, we are in this together. And that was my message to the caucus last weekend. We are in this together. Nobody knows what COVID-19 could do until it did it. And we have to show patience. But one of the things that I think is very critical when it comes to the village piece, we have to educate our children. And we have to help them understand. I'm having daily conversations with my children. This is why you vote. This is why you vote. When you see what your leaders are deciding that is harming and impacting your family, impacting your neighbors, in fact, impacting your friends, this is why you learn the importance of following politics. A lot of people don't like to follow politics, but guess what? It's the thing that makes the world go round. So we owe it to the village to educate the village. When I look at the four of you, you are an educated part of this village. We have to grab that part of our village that's not educated, and we have to teach them. We have to bring them up to speed. We have to help them understand your vote does matter. Okay? Your stance does matter. And there are a lot of instances and examples where I could talk about all 4 of you. I've seen you on the front line fighting and advocating. And that's why I wanted to put you before the people, because of your advocacy, because of your voice. And that's what we have to educate our community on. I posed the question to the caucus. I said the other day they took a vote to remove us, Annie. The vote was 42-0. 42-1. Mike Fannin was the only senator that voted against this bill. So I asked everybody in that room, I said, all of you elected officials, how many of you called your senator? See, we got a part to play as a people. And that's why I want you to educate even the caucus. Our voice is powerful. We've been silent too long. It's time for us to speak. But we have to speak intelligently and know what we're talking about when we're out here fighting. But we've got to educate the entire village. We've got to make sure that they know the message. And the message is that this group of Black folk, as I've heard my little brother Antjuan say, we won't tolerate some of the things that our ancestors went through. We won't. We're a different kind of breed, and we're a different type of fighter. So I'm going to just put my plug there. And thank you, Aaron, for letting me get in a little punch there. But I'm going to be quiet again. Thank you.
Well, don't worry. I'm going to bring you back in again because I know you have a lot to contribute to this conversation. And speaking of this conversation, I'm enjoying it because I see allies for children, people who want to help lift as you climb. And there's a statement once said that you may forget the voice of your enemy, but you'll never forget the silence of your friends. We are all in this together. And
that's right.
To segue to our second question, we are at a critical point in our existence. And because of that critical point, there's a battle that is before us that we are fighting for lives, right? And thank God for a vaccine, or a few vaccines are out there. But we need another type of vaccine. A vaccine to deal with the economic disparities.
That's right.
One quote Vince Ford has shared with me is this: when white America gets a cold, Black America gets the what?
COVID-19 now.
Antjuan, you said our children are impacted. The children of color are definitely impacted.
That's
our
right.
kids are struggling. So I'm going to go and start off with Representative Annie Mcdaniels, because you are a former school board member and now a representative. What does the battle really look like? What does the pivot look like now? Now that we are coming out of COVID with the vaccine, what's the next vaccine we need?
Well, let me start off by saying that life has always been critical for African Americans, and we are a resilient people. So I challenge us to continue to be resilient and to continue to fight whatever comes before us. COVID-19 has basically brought us to a standstill. And as the vaccine comes and we prepare to move out of it, I continue to talk about voting. I continue to talk about our elected officials. Though we are the people who make those critical decisions that determines whether that pivot is going to be in our favor or against us. So I just ask that we call our elected officials, not just at the state level, but the federal level. We know that the U.S. House just voted on the package and it passed, and now it's going to the Senate. So we need to make sure that we're calling those individuals and we're encouraging them. There's a lot of resources in there that's going to help our community as we make that turn, as it relates to our legislators. And I don't know, I know this is a partisan 501c3, but we got to focus on people who share the same ideals that we share. And we have to make sure that the people who are making those decisions, and right now, the folk who share the same ideas that we share are the minimum. They're the minority. One may say, well, if you're the minority, what do you do? Well, Cheryl said it best. We educate. We strategize. We strategize. We can put our strength together in our numbers, and we can still come out victorious.
That's right.
So I just want to challenge us to utilize the voting mechanism, contacting our elected officials. And while I'm here, I want to put a plug in for the SC Legislature app that's out there, where if you're driving in your vehicle, if you're just bored, you're shopping, whatever, you can listen to what is going on.
Right.
Listen to your legislators. Hear
Right.
what they're actually saying in action when they're at the State House. Are they speaking in favor of those ideas that you believe in, or are they not?
That's right.
Are they speaking so that as we come out of COVID-19, is it there for everyone? Is it going to benefit you? If not, pick up the phone and call your elected official.
That's
And
right.
if you cannot contact your elected official via phone, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem. I share my phone number with all of my constituents. I communicate with them. I don't mind having that conversation. We agree to disagree sometimes, and sometimes we're together.
Mm-hmm.
But there are so many aspects of our lives that are impacted by our elected officials. And
Right.
COVID-19 has just showed us how our elected officials have disappointed us.
Right.
So with that, again, thank you. And I'll listen to some of the other panelists.
Brother Vince Ford, you are definitely part of the history of not only Richland County, but the state of South Carolina. You stood on the front line as we had a rally cry to take the flag off the dome. You stood with Lonnie Randolph and traveled across this state. But back to the question, what does the pivot look like for us in South Carolina in this historical moment? What should be our rally cry?
Thank you, Chairman Bishop. I agree with everything that Representative Mcdaniels said, and I'm sure that when Antjuan and Bakari chime in, they're going to talk about how important voting is. So that's certainly fundamental to whatever we decide to do in our community. But let me add to that by saying your health and well-being is equally important to your ability to do whatever is going to be done. And unfortunately, too often we're not as chimed into our health and well-being. We think that the healthcare system can take care of our needs, but the truth be told, healthcare system can only provide for about 15% of your health and well-being. But also think about that a little bit differently. We don't want to get sick and go into the hospital. Our responsibility should try to keep you healthy and well, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So there's some self-responsibility that you have to take on as well. So that no matter what it is we're working on, you've got to be healthy and well, and you've got to, and I've got to encourage you to do that. Bakari talked earlier about, no hospitals in rural communities. The question that we have to ask ourselves is, why is that? Why would we have a state that has allowed hospitals in rural areas to close? That's where we need them most. To be honest with you, my mom was born in Allendale County, and check this out. In Allendale County, there are about 11,000 people. There's one grocery store in Allendale County. Think about that now. One grocery store in Allendale County. So health and well-being, Annie is pitched up, voting. And then the third thing that I would add to this discussion and then turn it over is that you've got to make sure that you mitigate your debt. You've got to put yourself in a position where that you're not so much in debt that you're enslaved to a job, a position, a community, so that you're able to make, so that you can pivot at some point if things are not going well and do things on your own. I wish we could talk a lot more about that, but that is so important that we believe. I was talking with a staff member once, and they said, Brother Ford, you have to be in debt. And I says, why is that? Just because you have to. And I said, no, you don't have to be. There are ways and things that we can do. So just like people, they are going to be affected by attention. I've called it. So voting, as Annie pitched that up, I pitched up health and wellness, and now I'm also suggesting to you we've got to learn how to mitigate our debt so that we can control our own destiny.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well,
let me piggyback on if I may just briefly.
Well, I love it. Go ahead, Bakari.
One of the things that Vince Ford mentioned, the health and well-being aspect, is so crucial because you're not any good to us in the movement if you ain't healthy yourself. Everybody should take the goal. One of my goals that I set with my family and our household was that we were going to come out of this quarantine period mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically stronger than we went in. Right?
Preach.
That's important. And I want to piggyback because he said health and well-being, but I also want us as Black folk to begin to have serious conversations about our mental health and well-being.
That's right.
For far too long, especially, and forgive me, Annie and Cheryl, for not talking to you all during this point, but for far too long, Black men have not had conversations about our mental health and well-being, understanding. Antjuan and I talk about the stresses that Black men go through often that don't get reported or cared about by anybody, but we got to do a better job of communicating. Right. And we sometimes get in this vein where we only feel like we can talk to our barber, but we got to make sure that we actually talk to people, whether or not a pastor or therapist, who can help us cope with the societal. So that's important. Yes. To your original question though, Aaron, I mean, we gotta start challenging ourselves to think outside the box. When we're talking about bringing resources into our communities, the biggest frustration I had in the South Carolina State House, and I don't know if Annie has it yet, but I guarantee you she will, is that we continue to do the same thing over and over again.
That's right.
Amen.
And, we have to begin to catch up with the rest of the union. I mean, I know that I'm on with some traditional folks, and Antjuan gonna text me later, be like, how you talk about that? But we at least have to begin to talk about things like medical marijuana in South Carolina. I know the Hospital Association is on board with that. I don't know if Vince is, but the Hospital Association is. And the reason being is because we're talking about bringing in new industry to South Carolina. I mean, we have to talk about ways that we can get jobs and create jobs in these communities. We got to focus on science, technology, engineering, and math.
Right.
We got to focus on making sure that kids have an opportunity, because everybody's not going to college, but that they can graduate and go get a good $15, $20, $30 an hour job doing something that they love to do. And the last thing is, man, I wore my South Carolina State sweatshirt with pride this morning, because we have not done a good job caring for our institutions of higher learning, particularly our HBCUs in the state. And I think that from South Carolina State, Allen, Benedict, Clinton Junior College, Denmark Technical College, I didn't mention Claflin because Claflin is head and shoulders. I mean, it's going in the right direction, but we have to do a much better job of taking care of our institutions of higher learning, particularly our HBCUs. And we got to stop thinking that white folks' ice is colder than ours for some reason. You can go to South Carolina State and get equally as good as education as you can get from USC. You can go to Allen and come out and be a brain surgeon if you want to be. Benedict got one of the coldest HBCU presidents or presidents of any college in the country. I mean, she's just bad. Rosalind Artist know what she's doing over there. I would let her educate my children in a heartbeat. And so, I just think that these are some of the things we can do as you talk about wealth, as you talk about equity. We got to begin to think. Now, y'all gonna go back and say, Bakari done come here to the South Carolina Black Caucus and talked about weed at 10 o'clock in the morning. We got to push the envelope and challenge ourselves to create more opportunities for our state, because they doing it all around us.
That's right.
That's right.
Sellers,
Go ahead.
I'm gonna take probably a more 50,000-foot approach, and I'm just gonna focus on getting better. Vince, the one thing Miss Donnella Wilson said to me before she died, and I repeat it to myself every single day I wake up. She said, young Seawright, every generation will have its sets of challenges, but every generation has a responsibility to get better and to make the world better and leave this world better than they found it.
Right.
I say this for framework purposes, and I'll say it again this morning. I grew up in rural Swansea, South Carolina. My grandparents were sharecroppers. My mother and father did not go to anybody's college. But as I say, all across this country and sometimes across this world, they were better than my grandparents' generation because at least they could spell college. And I don't take for granted the position and the platform I've been fortunate to have. But it will be malpractice on my part if I do not find myself better or make the community better for people who come after me. And so when I think about COVID and I think about our people who look like us, the one thing that frustrates the hell out of me, excuse my language, is the fact that we find ourselves having some of the same conversations and challenges as my sharecropping grandparents.
That's right.
My parents.
That's right.
We're not careful of Bakari's children. And one day, if I'm fortunate to have a wife and all those things, our children will have the same challenges of their day that we had in our day. And we've got to figure out how to do better. The same economic hardships that some of our parents and grandparents have, we found ourselves at the State House and at the White House and so many other places trying to deal with those things. You talk about healthcare, disparities in access and affordability. Vince, you know more than anybody on this Zoom. Those challenges didn't just pop up, and we're at a crucial point in our society and our history. If we're not careful, we're going to be having those conversations 20 years from now. Same song, just a different day.
Right.
And so we've got to focus on getting better. And the only way we get better is by applying pressure. Bakari just said, pushing the envelope, thinking outside the box, behaving as if there is no box.
Right.
Yes, elections are important, and trust me, I do it for a living, so I'm all about elections. But before there's election, there's engagement. Because if you don't know who your elected officials are, or as Vince would always say, if they don't know who you are, there's no point in showing up to vote for them.
That's
You'd be
right.
surprised the people who don't know the role of a school board member versus a county council person.
That's
so
right.
Engagement, part of engagement means education. That means showing up not just when little Junebug get in trouble to the school board people, but showing up when there's nothing on the agenda about little Junebug, but just to making sure the school board is conducting themselves.
That's
not
right.
just when you feel like the sheriff or the police chief made a bad decision to show up at the city council meeting, but show up when there's something on the agenda as relates to zoning and a business coming into your neighborhood, because that's going to impact the economic well-being of your neighborhood.
Right.
Don't just show up to the State House because the teacher's saying we need a pay raise. How about talk to your legislator and your local officials and the preacher who let the politician come to their church when the election season is in? Talk to them about making sure there's ongoing engagement. So you don't have to remind them about the importance of voting for teachers. They'll know it because we tell them all the time. We've got to get out of this place of just screaming about our issues and whispering about the solutions. We've got to yell about the solutions and start whispering about the issues. Because if we don't, nothing's going to change.
That's right.
And I can't sit here in good conscience and do events like this over and over again, year after year, and we're having the same conversations with different people, but yet nothing has changed.
That's right.
Well
and I'll end by saying this, Madam Chairwoman. You know, my grandmothers, I was not fortunate enough to meet my grandfather. Both of them died very young from health challenges and so on. But I spent a heck of a lot of time with my grandmothers. And the one thing my mother's mother would always say to me, she said, son, I just want you to know, I might be dead and gone, but two things you better always remember. You're either going to be at the table or on the menu.
Right.
You'll decide what that looks like. And if you get a chance to get to that table, don't make sure you sit alone. Make sure you open up the door, pull up a chair, even heist up a window, as they say in Lord Richland and Cheryl, to make sure other people can get around that table.
That's right.
And so we've got to be about our grandparents' business in that way.
Right. You know, Aaron, I want to add this real quickly because as I listened to Bakari talk about STEM, you recall this back in December. I was invited to come and speak at you all's luncheon as your speaker. And I was a little hesitant. You sure you want me to come and speak at your luncheon for the legislators? But, you know, being there, I said some things to them that I want to share with everybody. We all read the good book. We know what the Bible says. It says where your heart is, there will your treasure be also. And I asked those legislators, and Annie, you were my witness. Why are we not fully funding education? Because your heart is not. But education is the economic engine of the state. So if you're talking about stability and growth for everybody in the state, put the money where your mouth is. And I shared with you, you know, we had a flood back in 2015 that showed a lot of these disparities that we're talking about right now with COVID, and absolutely nothing was done. And it's just time out, as Antjuan just said, it's time out for year after year and day after day that we are having this discussion. And it's time to put in the work, to put in the action. And as I've talked to the caucus, and I've said to them, you've got to create allies. When things are going down, Aaron, you know this, Vince, you know this, I suit up. I make 10 phone calls and I got a posse coming in 200 or 300. You've got to be wise about this thing. And you've got to educate your people on the issue that they know exactly what the beast is that we're all fighting right now. We're not fighting against each other. We're fighting the same monster. And that's the monster of oppression and suppression that wants to keep African Americans down. And we've got to wake up And we've got to understand that we got to stop talking about it and we got to be about it. We've got to take the leap now, because they won't take it for us, guys. We've got to take the leap. So just wanted to add my 2 cents.
Yes, Madam Chair, well said. And because I want to go back to something you exposed in this conversation, mental health. We really need to take charge of our mental health.
Yes, we do.
Whenever you get on an airplane, one of the things you hear from the pilot, from the steward, is before you try to help someone else with their mask,
That's right.
secure your mask first.
That's right.
And I think that we need to literally have some accountability in our conversation to make sure we talk about our mental health. But to go back to one of Antjuan's points.
Can we, real quick, Aaron, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Because Cheryl posed the question to us, and I think it's necessary we answer. She asked, why don't we fund education?
I was going there next. But go ahead. You're on CNN moderating these days, so I'll let you take the lead.
Listen, I got twins. I'm just trying to pay for them. If your church is hiring, let me know. I'm about to get a job at the funeral home. Look, you can't get blood out of turnip.
That's right.
We're a very poor state. You know, I remind folk often that when I talk about science, technology, engineering, and math, I mean, I've been out to River Bluff High School. Have y'all seen that school lately?
Well, yeah.
Like a college dormitory.
Man, I love it. I mean, that thing, I would have gone to college at River Bluff High School. When was the last time y'all went to Blackville Hilda, though? You know, Blackville Hilda was one of the places back that had the first school shooting. I know Vince Ford remembers that. Had one of the first school shootings in the country. My daddy was on the state school board. I remember going because the sled helicopter came down, and that was his regional school board. And we went over there before he dropped me off at school. It's the same school, open air school, where they had the open air always.
Right.
Back when Barack Obama passed the stimulus, that we built 2 new schools, one in Dillon and one in Bamberg, with Build America bonds. But that was it. You know, the federal dollars that we need, the state dollars that we need, we're just not getting enough of them.
Right.
And that's why I keep saying, Cheryl, that we have to think outside of the box about the way that we fund our schools. We have to create other streams of revenue. We have to keep pushing Washington, D.C. to give us more dollars, because we may have a school district or a school that does it well, but the fundamental aspect is that the majority of Black children in South Carolina are not being prepared for a 21st century global economy.
Right. That's right.
I mean, what you guys do in Columbia, Richland School District 1 and 2 is amazing. It's awesome. But I'm thinking about Hampton 1 and 2.
That's right. That's right.
I'm thinking about Branchville High School.
That's right.
I'm thinking about Clarendon County and Williamsburg. I want these kids to be able to compete with the kids who graduate from River Bluff or the kids who go to Spartanburg Dorman.
That's right.
And we are not doing a good enough job of taking care of all of us.
That's right.
And I think until we begin, Ms. Cheryl, to think outside the box, because your question is a good one. Until we begin to push and until we begin to legislate where we are creating new opportunities and new resources to bring to our students, then we're going to continue to have these same problems. And I'll be having the same discussion, which is me and Antjuan.
I want to add to that, Brother Bishop.
You know the gospel according to Antjuan, Seawright. You cannot govern if you do not win.
That's right.
And truth be told, I love Ann McDaniels. Love her. But she's so deep in the minority, the only thing she can do at the State House is wait for the speaker to tell her when to say the pledge and when they're going to lunch.
That's true.
That's true. We just don't have the numbers. I work in the state Senate. I know what it's like to have people want to filibuster and have debates of talking about not just equity but equality. But Republicans got enough votes to sit them down and pass whatever they want to.
That's right.
And laugh about it and go home. And so until we get in this business of understand the importance of governing and really digesting the fact that elections have deep, severe, and generational consequences.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So we're going to be texting, we're going to be screaming, we're going to be yelling, and our kids are going to be suffering and dying literally in their communities unless something changes where we really can make big change. Yes, we got to figure out a formula to make sure that the money is spread across the board. But if we don't have people making decisions that understand our communities or who care about what these communities look like or what does equality and equity look like, we can have all the money in the world, but it really doesn't matter.
That's right.
And until we start to maximize our net worth,
Yes.
WORTH, as Black voters in the state, and pushing our networks, WORKS, to make sure we show up and show out in every election, we're just going to be repeat offenders about some of the same challenges and issues that we find ourselves over and over and over again. Vince Ford will be retired at his beach house in the Bahamas. I'll still be trying to make the money he made in his first year of his job. And guess what? Our children will be suffering.
Bishop,
Cheryl,
let me respond as well.
Let me please. I must respond to something that Antjuan just stated.
All right.
No, go ahead, Vince. I can come
Okay, so Antjuan said earlier he spoke of Junebug. I didn't realize that he knew that was Bishop's nickname, Junebug. So, but let me speak to what Bakari and Antjuan said, and they're both right. Bakari talked about Hampton 1 and 2 and some of the other districts. I remember a few years ago, I was in a conversation with some folk in Lee County, and I remember talking with the then principal of the high school, and he said something to me that stuck with me. He said, I sent my students on a trip over to the Lee County prison. And he said when they returned, they got off the bus and they started crying. And he was trying to figure out what in the world was going on with the kids. So he brought them into a room and started talking with them. And they said they made these comments. They said, "Principal, we don't understand." And he says, "What is it you don't understand?" They said, "How can the state prison have a state-of-the-art library?" He said, "How can a state prison have computers everywhere? And here we are in Lee County High School, and we don't have any of those things." I remember when we considered trying to pass a bond issue to renovate and build new schools in Richland 1, how people came out against us to be able to do that. Now, so I pitched that up for this reason. You have to go to the public to get a vote on building a school, but all you need is a majority of the people at the State House to build a prison.
That's right.
Now, check this out. There's a prison in every county of the state of South Carolina. Well, let me put it this way. There are more prisons than counties in the state of South Carolina. And 3 federal prisons. All right. So keep that in mind. So I really agree with Bakari. And Antjuan, I would just add one other thing to what you said. I agree with everything you said. When we're in a minority, we do have 2 key weapons that we can use, and that is shame or pain. We have to either shame people into doing what's right, which is what we did during the civil rights movement, or we have to create some pain like they did with the Montgomery bus boycott. And I know some of you are saying, well, those things don't work. Well, I'm telling you, they still work when you're in the minority, because people don't like to be shamed and they don't want to feel pain. We're the biggest consumers of any demographic in our community. And so there's some things we do. Now, I hope this is not true, but a whole lot of people in our community got a favorite Chinese restaurant. They can tell you the name and the time that they're going to, going there to get something to eat.
I will not be judged, Vince. I will not be judged.
So we have to use.
That was good.
Anyway,
that was good.
Yeah, that was a good one. So we have to use our collective resources. We have the ability, even when we're in a minority, to move the needle, if you will.
That's right.
Either through shame or through pain. So just wanted to add those comments to Junebug. I'll kick it back to you.
All right. Well, thank you for.
Before you leave that, no. Before you leave that, I must.
No, I wasn't going to be. I was going to definitely bring you up. Go ahead.
I know.
I just want to acknowledge my name is Junebug.
I must continue to talk about this voting thing. Antjuan, you made a very good point when you were talking about the voting and electing the right people. Now, we had about 10,000 folk come down to the State House following SC for education. All of the red, 10,000. But when election time came, how many seats turned? So we have got to engage our folk so that they understand. We can talk all day long about many of the issues And we must support our own. I understand all of that, you guys. But if we do not elect the right people at that state house, they make a humongous difference.
Yes.
Look at the commerce. Look at all the money that we give to industry when they come in. And I'm not saying we shouldn't. But what I'm saying is if we can give money to industry, why can't we give it to our education and our healthcare?
Right.
The great equalizer, healthcare, education. Those two, we can move forward. And everything else will start falling in place. But for some reason, we seem not to be able to get those things in place. And I am just a firm believer that as we talk about our village, if we will do a better job of teaching our folk how to fish versus just giving them a fish,
that's right,
that goes to engagement.
That's right.
We can start moving forward. And look at the beautiful baby. Yay! That's it. I just wanted to toss that in about all those folk that came down and then we didn't turn one seat. So we got to engage and educate our people so that they will go out and vote for people who make a difference.
Not just didn't turn one seat, still ain't passed the education bill.
Exactly.
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 Well, let me come in here for one round again of discussion, and this is our final question. Then after that, I'll be asking for a final comment from the panel, and then Madam Chair, you can give us a charge. The question now is, with the election of the new administration, President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, what does it mean to us? I know Antjuan always preaches local elections matter, but presidential election gave so much hope. It restored our faith into the leadership of this nation. What does that election of administration mean to us as a state of South Carolina? What should be our rally cry?
That's right.
I can tell you what it means to me. I'm in D.C. now. Went to bed last night at 2:45. They finished voting on the floor at 2 o'clock. I got back here at my place around 2:15, and I stayed up for a while watching the news. But I reminded myself when I woke up this morning what I went around the country saying. I said the 2020 election was not just consequential. It was going to mean life or death for a lot of communities, particularly communities that look like ours. Because whoever was going to be in charge was going to make decisions that will determine whether those communities live or die. I try to live by everything I say to people, whether it's on TV or in person. And I mean that. And so the fact that Joe Biden put together a $1.9 trillion package, where I know for certain if it passes the Senate, money will be funneled down to communities and states and places to implement some of the necessary changes to take us off life support. Move from life support to the ICU, I feel good about. The fact that he put people like Marsha Fudge in charge of housing, my friend Javier Becerra at HHS, and others, some of these agencies that are going to be critical to repairing the broken fault lines in this country, I feel good about. And so I think we got a lot to look forward to, but just know this stuff didn't happen overnight, so it's not going to change overnight.
That's right.
And so we have to stay engaged, stay involved, hold these folks accountable, hold this administration accountable, but also don't let nobody fool you. What we have in the White House is much better than the alternative that we could have had.
That's right.
We have what we have because Black people figured out when we vote, when we show up, things happen.
That's right.
So for me, it's a breath of fresh air. Boring and sexy again. People can believe in government again. Government will work and will be displayed of how it should work for people, particularly those who need it the most. And guess what else? You're going to have people in key roles in decision-making places who not only look like the communities look like ours, but understand our needs and challenges. And that's what I feel good about. What you can look for in terms of the state of South Carolina, you can look for Republicans to act the fool and act crazy and say no to everything that we know will be good for the state and the community. But you can also know that we have the most powerful voice in Joe Biden's ear every single day who's going to fight for the state, and that's Jim Clapper. And that I feel really good about when it comes to helping the state over the next 4 years.
Well, thank you for bringing up Congressman Clyburn, because he definitely helped President Joe Biden get out the starting blocks here in South Carolina. Bakari, can you follow up with the same question? What does it mean for us here in the state of South Carolina?
It means our work is not done. You know,
Mhm.
my good friend always says, like Andrew Gillum, he would always say that voting is the front door to politics. And my brother Seawright says something that I'll be brief about, but we got to hold people accountable.
Mhm.
If Joe Biden and Kamala, who I love and adore, a good friend of mine, and Jim Clyburn and the rest of them don't go big, then it don't matter.
Right.
Like, you know, I think that, yes, it means a lot to have Yogananda Pittman, who is the new interim U.S. Capitol Police, graduate of Morgan State. It means a lot to have Joyce Beatty, incoming chair of the CBC, graduate of Cheney State. It means a lot to have Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff and Alex Padilla. The diversity of those Hispanic, a Jew, and a Baptist minister from Georgia being sworn into the Senate. It means a lot to have Kamala as vice president. But you know what means more to our people?
Come
a
on.
$15 minimum wage.
Mhm.
You know what means more to our people?
Mhm.
Making sure that the events for get the money over at Prisma so they can get access to everybody and everywhere with the vaccine.
That's right.
I mean, look, I'm all for it. And I'm glad people got big offices, but we got to hold people accountable too.
That's
and I think
right.
that's the most important thing. Because in South Carolina, you know, we had 8 years of Barack Obama. I loved it. But we need more now. We're in a different time. Our people are hurting in a way that they haven't hurt before. And we can celebrate all those things and we can still say, Jim, we need more money here. You know, I can simply say that I stand on the shoulders of Jim Clyburn and I love Kamala Harris, but I can also say, look, man, y'all got to get rid of that filibuster or something. Y'all got to do something because we need $15 minimum wage. You know, man, try to live off $7.50, Bishop. You can't even buy that nice sweater you got on right now. So, I mean, like, I think that we can love and adore and respect these people for everything they have accomplished and everything they will accomplish. We can vote for them and vote for them again and give them all the support they need. But we can also tell them that we need this $1.9 trillion bill to pass. We need minimum wage to be increased. We need dollars to our rural school districts and hospitals. We need these things, and I'm not afraid to ask for them.
Right.
And Annie, we are definitely talking about something that is very critical with the midterm elections. Often we forget about the midterm elections. Let's talk about that because you got a captivated audience of South Carolina Black school board members. What should we be doing now with the midterm elections?
Thank you for that question. Very good question. What we should be doing right now is looking at the seats that we would like to take over. And we need to be getting people ready to run. As some of the other panelists have stated, we need to engage so that they know who to vote for once we get these people to run. Make sure that the individuals who are planning to run, make sure they know exactly what the office entails. And a very important statement was made, knowing the responsibilities if they run for school board, knowing the responsibilities of the county council. We often have people come to the state house and testify, and I listen to them, and that's the county council. That's the school board. You don't want us to be micromanaging. You don't want Big Daddy coming in. Go to your local officials for that particular matter. But I also want to state real quick, you asked a question about Joe Biden, Kamala Harris administration. And I think it's a new beginning. It's a new beginning. And in order for that new beginning to continue to foster and move forward, we must stay engaged. And we must hold them accountable as we would anyone else. Because from being at the State House, I've learned you get grabbed at from every direction. And it's so easy if you're not really paying attention to be pulled away from what you really believe in and what you're focused on. And I hope that during their administration, they will look at the different ways that resources come from the federal government to red states. That's how we got stuck not being able to take advantage of the expansion of Medicaid. It came in through the governor. The governor was red. So I hope they will look at some different avenues and making sure that those much needed funding sources for communities like ours in the state of South Carolina can have access in spite of the cold-heartedness of those persons that are in office because of the redness, and praying that we eventually turn blue so that we can also resemble the Joe Biden, Kamala Harris era.
Right.
Vince, we'd love to hear from you.
You know, I'm actually encouraged, to be honest with you. I'm encouraged because we have people like Representative Mcdaniels, who I've known for a long time, and I know he's not going to back down from anyone. I'm more encouraged because of people like Bakari and Antjuan, who speak truth to power all over this country.
Right.
And if there's ever an opportunity, I'm encouraged by people like Cheryl Harris, Aaron Bishop. But when you stop and think about Bakari Sellers and Antjuan Seawright, who are in the ears of other people like us all over this country, if you listen to what Bakari just said, Bakari said, yeah, it's good to have the big offices, but we need big ideas.
That's right.
And so, for a long time, we would sit around and we would praise a person for being in an office, but then no action came out of that office. And what these young guys are suggesting now is it can't be just enough for us to be there. It's about us getting something done.
That's right.
And so I'm actually encouraged to see the next generation of leadership who, man, are bold and they're bright and they're talented and they speak truth to power. So I feel good, Antjuan, that I can retire and one day go to your beach house in the Bahamas. and not have to pay any rent or anything. So and I want everybody on the call to understand. I mean, here we're talking about Swansea and Denmark. I mean, these some bad brothers, man. I'm telling you. Yeah. So
Well, listen, y'all. I think we've exhausted our time, and so we're gonna give everyone a chance to give a final comment, then receive a charge from our president, Vince. Any final comments? Then we'll go to Annie, Bakari, and Antjuan.
Yeah, thank you. I think it was both Antjuan and Bakari started off with the words, thank you. I too want to echo those words as well. And I appreciate everyone being on this morning. And so I want to, from my space in healthcare, I want you to take care of yourself, be healthy, be well, mentally, spiritually, and otherwise. And as Bakari said, even your mental health. Consider getting the vaccine. That's something that you can do right now. If you're 65 and above, Annie, next Saturday, we're going to be at Columbia International University. So please come out. We'll get information out about those appointments. If you decide to get the vaccine, share that with your family members and talk to them about how important that is. And then one final comment. If you decide not to get it, and I respect that, I really do. But if you decide not to get the vaccine, please don't speak negative that would keep someone else from considering getting the vaccine, because that is so important for us to turn this thing around in our community, because we're trending behind in terms of getting this vaccine. Madam Chair, thanks for allowing us to be on.
Thank you,
to be on the call with these heavyweights today. I appreciate you. Love you. Take care.
Thank you.
Annie.
Okay. Thank you again for this wonderful panels and all the discussions that we've had. My heart just goes out for the South Carolina Caucus of Black School Board Members, of which I was a member for 18 years, and seeing how you all took a critical moment and you pivoted, and now you are getting your brand out. And I just think it's absolutely wonderful. I just want to encourage everyone, just moving forward from former trustee Commissioner Ford, that vaccine, what I've been told and what I believe in, because at first I didn't want to take it, is that when you think about the number of people who've actually died from COVID and the number of people who died from the vaccine, I encourage everyone to weigh the two and determine which one you think is best for you. Moving from healthcare to education, which is one of my second loves, if not my first. We want everyone to try your best to make sure that you receive a good education. And I want to encourage everyone out to, in this turbulent time, and getting our children educated, is to do whatever you can for your neighbors. We talked about the village first, and everyone is a part of the village. And our children are experiencing something totally different. Our parents, particularly those who work in manufacturing, and our teachers, superintendents, board members, everyone trying to make sure that we do not lose a whole year of education for our children. So I'm asking everyone to do your part in trying to work with our school boards, our teachers, our parents, our children, so that they can get a good quality education. And then my final push is to vote. I always encourage you to vote. Download SC Legislature app. Pay attention to what we are doing at the State House. Call us when you need to. Text us. I have people in Fairfield County who never paid attention. I'm on the floor now, subcommittee. They're texting me. So that means a lot. And as we talk about what we can do as a minority when it comes to making our voices be heard, being strategic is very important. We missed, in my opinion, and I'm going to tell it, we missed the opportunity, in my opinion, when we had a judgeship, when Miss Benjamin, Attorney Benjamin Judge Benjamin ran for, and she did not get the seat. Well, in my opinion, Greenville had a race that we could have turned. We could have turned that race, and we chose not to. So to me, that was a lost opportunity. That was a strategic move that we did not take advantage of. So being a minority does not always mean you lose. It just means that you got to come close together. Y'all know when we pledge, we lock those arms and nobody get in. So be strategic. Lock those arms, come out a winner. Just because you're a minority does not mean you have to lose. Thank you all again. I've enjoyed the panelists. Great seeing you, Ms. Commissioner Ford. Antjuan, keep it going. Keep telling the truth. Keep making good trouble. Same for you, Bakari. You have an audience. Keep letting your voice be heard. Everything you said today was just marvelous.
That's
and
right.
To the commissioners of Richland School District 1, y'all continue to work together and continue to grow the brand for the Caucus of Black School Board members. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Annie.
You know, to this Caucus of Black School Board members, I don't think that we acknowledge the hard work you all do enough. And so I just want to say thank you to everyone who, ran for office, won, and who did this because they truly care about the future of our great state and who care about the children that are being educated in those school districts. And so thank you so much. I don't really have a charge. I just, let me also just give a note here. PPP loans, we're coming back around with those real quick. Miss Diane Sumter is a plug for those. So if you got a small business, if you got a church, if you got a nonprofit that qualifies, look at the Bishop Fire, Vince Junebug trying to get people loans over here, Vince. If you got a funeral home, whatever you may have, a small business, make sure. I want everybody to blow Diane Sumter up. Call her, use her.
Amen.
They don't take no money. They don't take no money from you. Over at that center over there, she'll get you squared away. She even did. This is how big time she is. She even helped Bishop T.D. Jakes with his PPP loan. So if she helped T.D. Jakes, she can help Aaron Bishop too. But
Amen.
I had to get that plug out. But even more importantly, let me just say this: we have so much work to do in our communities, and for far too long, Antjuan Seawright said it best. We have been yelling about the problems and whispering about the solutions. I want to be a part of the solution. And a lot of these age-old problems we've had in our state, let's finally put our shoulder to the wheel and help people get out the ditch. Let's actually talk to people who may not look like us or think like us. Let's meet people where they are. And to everybody on your school board, let me say this: go out and have a town hall meeting. Some of y'all been elected 15, 20 years and ain't never had a town hall meeting.
That's right.
Go out there and have a town hall meeting and just listen to what the people have to say. After your church service on Sunday, you can just say, I may stand up during the announcements and say, I'm going to stay 10 minutes after service so anybody can talk to me about what's going on the school board. You don't even got to organize a town hall. You can have a makeshift town hall right there. But let's begin to listen to the people. Me and Seawright went to I don't know where Seawright had me, some country barbershop in North Carolina campaigning. And we just listened to Black men, Vince Ford. And they were telling us all types of stories about how government had just passed them by and they had checked out. So I just want us to do a better job of sometimes not talking yet, but listening to our people. Let's be about service and let's continue to hold people accountable. But thank you for all your service and thank you for volunteering to do this job. Thank you, Cheryl, for having me. And of course, Aaron, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Bakari.
See, right.
To every school board member who's serving, you all a thermostat of justice. You will determine the temperature in rooms for generations to come, and please don't take that responsibility lightly or for granted, because our children are our future. Vince served on the school board a long time. I've always looked up to him for his school board service and many other things, but he set a standard for Black school board members in the state, and you all have an example to look back at, but also better to work toward. And that's what I want to focus my closing commentary on, is better. Look, our work is is just beginning. Don't think because we got a black woman as second command in this country that the work is over. It's just starting. Because truth be told, if we don't hold our own in November of next year, everything we did in November of last year will be erased. So our work is just starting. If people don't know about the PPP loans or even the Restaurant Act that was put into this COVID package that will give monies to local minority restaurants to keep them afloat, to get them going back on. If we're not educated about some of the things going on around us, it's going to be what those barbers and those patrons told Bakari and I in North Carolina a few months ago. Government's going to pass them by once again. People are going to lose hope, and they're not going to believe the government can work and should work for them. And so our work is just starting. And here's two other things. We all have a role to play.
That's right.
Everybody won't be on CNN. Everybody won't do what I do and others. But perhaps the person who organized the meeting and not the person talking at the meeting. That's right. This is important as anything else. Because if you don't have an organizer, you can't have a person to show up for the meeting. So don't think that your role is minimal because it's not one of the big visible roles. And then the last thing is sticking together. That's right. If there's one thing we know about our community, sometimes friction causes us to be in a place where we're so easily popped apart. We have to stick together. No matter what people tell us, the differences we might have amongst each other, they do not compare to the differences that we have with people who don't care about us. That's right. I think that has to be front and center in our North Star and everything we do. And so you may not disagree with your fellow black school board member that you serve with, but don't let a public fight show division in our community that cause our children to lose out. Because I've seen that happen so many times on school boards, not just in the state, but across the country. So stick together, but focus on getting better. Next year, when you all have this conference, I want to be able to celebrate with you all that we have made actual pieces and steps of progress and not having to find ourselves going full steam backward because of this conversation, because of what we did not do.
Madam Chair, before I go
Preach,
to
brother.
you, before I come to you, I just want to take the time to tell this amazing panel, thank you for allowing me, Junebug, to help pace this conversation. I want to leave you with this. If tongue and cheek fall out, just remember they're always together. And when we look at the fact that we are dealing with what Nelly from Dirty ENT said, we are all we got. We are all we have. And we need to definitely let teamwork make the dream work. So as we are, there's my beautiful wife chiming in. I better say something, everybody. My wife chimed in right there. Let's continue to have these kind of conversations. And to Madam President Cheryl Harris, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for allowing us to have this conversation. And we receive your charge at this time.
You know, Aaron, let me just start by something I heard last night that Roy, when the Revelation said in his performance, his song was entitled, "We Need to Pull Together." And if you remember, that video showed him sitting there watching all of the bad that was happening towards our race of people. But, you know, I am charging every member of this caucus to pull together. But before I go into all of that, I have to thank the teachers on this group. I have to thank Annie and Bakari and Antjuan and Vince for bringing so much knowledge to the table for this caucus. Annie, you know as well as I know, and Vince know, this caucus has been in a struggle for many years. And when I took over this caucus, I was a little hesitant about what in the world I had gotten myself into. But I thank God for God being who he is, because he gave us a vision. And what he kept reminding me is knowledge is power. Our people are destroyed because of a lack of knowledge, Cheryl. Bring education to the table. They don't have to have a PhD degree. They just have to have the experience and the know-how. And today I feel that we've done just that for this caucus. We've brought people to the table that can tell you how we do what we do better, that we need to learn to speak truth to power. You know, my school district, urban, suburban, and rural. So I get a taste of it all. Aaron, you know, just the other day, I had to pack up and run downtown for a board meeting because I live in the rural portion of this district, lost internet connection. But at the end of the day, everybody's challenges are different, but there's still a challenge. But as Bakari said, we can yell at the issue all day long. It's time to strategize. It's time to suit up. It's time to put plans into place, and it's time to move forward. I challenge every regional director. We have 5 of them, from the upstate to low country, PD, and the Midlands. You know who you are. Let's set up these meetings. I've been asking for it. Let's set up these meetings and let's have these virtual town halls with our folk, and let's start educating our people on the real issue. And sometimes the real issue is us. Sometimes the real issue is that we don't want to speak truth to power. But I believe that if we put our shoulders together and our shoulders to the wheel, I really believe that we can move forward. We left a conference that just told us it was time for us to get unstuck. Time to get unstuck. That was the conference we just left. And I believe it was Antjuan that told us we got the power.
Yes.
But we haven't been using our power. We haven't been effective. But the charge today to every Black school board member in this state, and even those that are joining us from other places, our challenge is to move this caucus forward. Not just to be visibly present when it comes to advocacy, but in these rural communities, making a difference, working with literacy programs and things of that nature, but also coming back to you all as caucus members and educating you. That is why this caucus channel was established. It wasn't just established for the Black History Celebration. It was established that on a monthly basis, we are going to bring information to you so that you can better fight, you can better serve and protect the students in your area. We're going to be more innovative in what we do across the state to the smallest community. I've talked a lot to my folk in Lee County, how, the lack of the PPE equipment that they need and things that we can do. We've got to rally together. And as I often tell you, Aaron, we got tired of our little districts getting beat up on. That's why some of the bigger districts stepped up to the plate and said, you know what, take this caucus forward. And now our little brothers and sisters can sit on the porch and rest because the bigger babies and brothers and sisters are now fighting on the front line. And that is why we are here. Annie, that's why we're here. You know the things we've been through in this caucus. We've been shot down, ostracized, criticized, and anything else. But those days are over. Those days are behind us. And we've got to suit up. And we've got to get ready to move the children of the state forward, guys. Amen. And we have the power to do it because it was said, being the minority doesn't mean we lose.
That's right.
That's a sermon by itself. We don't lose because we're the minority. We've just got to fight the fight a little differently. So to all of you, I encourage you to start working on your plans. We will be in touch with you again. This has been an awesome event today. Our final day is tomorrow. We have a recording group coming in, and we have the Honorable Darrell Jackson, Senator Darrell Jackson, the pastor of Bible Way Church of Atlas Road, will be giving our closing message. And I'm going to tell you, it's powerful. You do not want to miss that at 6:30 tomorrow. But to all of the caucus members, let me say to you, I hope you feel like I feel right now, and that is, it is time to move forward. We are ready. We are ready, Antjuan, to get in some good trouble. We are ready. Aaron?
Cheryl, I don't want to neglect the opportunity to tell people that you don't have to be a school board member to support this caucus.
Right.
But you can support it from any position, correct?
Yes,
Cheryl?
you can. And you're welcome to join. You can email us. You can follow us on Instagram at SCCBSBM, or you can email us at SCCBSBM@gmail.com. We have a Facebook page. If you'd like to be a part of that, just send us a request. We will sign you up to that. And if you want to be a paying member, it's $35 a year. It's not a whole lot of money, but that helps cover some of the expenses that we do have, such as putting on this event that we're having today.
Wow.
We love
that means Antjuan can be a member and Bakari can be a member.
That means
$35.
Antjuan can be a member. As a matter of fact, Antjuan and
my 3-year membership.
That's right. And Antjuan and Bakari don't even know it yet, but they are officially instructors and directors of the caucus. So you know that work, right, Danny? Because it's nothing more powerful, like Vince Ford said, to see young brothers coming up and making a difference in this fight out here when it comes to doing what's right for the people. So I'm excited to have them here today, and I'm excited to have them coming back at some point in time to speak again, truth to power. Because guys, sometimes this is what we need. Sometimes we got to have a raw discussion about the issues and realize sometimes you're standing there looking at it in the mirror. We get elected to these positions, and we just, as I say a lot of times, we got our bow ties on and our high heels, and we done got our hair done, and we feel important, but we're not making a difference in our community. And that's an issue for me, and it should be an issue for you. We're going to move the state educationally. We're going to do it together. So thank you all to all of our panelists. You have been amazing. I appreciate you. Have a good one. You guys take care. Stay safe. Stay well. And while we're waving by, we're going to go to our commercial break so that we can salute all of our sponsors. Thank
Later,
you.
Junebug. See you later, Junebug.
Great job.
All right, Butch.
Bye, Junebug, Butch.
Three
Bye,
times.
Mcdaniels.
3 times.
3 times already.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, 3 times already.
I don't know how to leave.
Take care.
Just stay right,
Sponsors,
just stay
thank
right
our
there.
sponsors.
You know, I'm going to see you later, Vince.
Later, Annie.
At this time, we'll go to a commercial break where we can thank all of our sponsors that have been so willing to support this endeavor for this weekend. Go to a commercial break now.
And this is my assistant, Stemmy. STEM is all around us. Early Bird Kids make STEM relevant, simple, and fun for elementary students using the LEARN model. LEARN is literacy, edutainment, application, and reinforced normatives. Early Bird Kids engages and exposes children to real-life engineering experiences like our new Everblock building experience. Early Bird Kids provides an innovative way to spark an interest in elementary students and inspire them to learn and pursue STEM. Our books' reading levels are based on Lexile measurements. IBK is STEM.org certified. Today's students are tomorrow's pioneers. STEM competencies are critically important for our kids' long-term survival. Early Bird Kids develops STEM content for K through 3rd grades, including books, live shows, STEM television shows, and mobile STEM expos for school districts and parents across the nation. We want to help you light the STEM passion in our children. So let's get it done together. Visit us at earlybirdkids.com.